The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like dying wasps as I stared at my computer screen, putting the finishing touches on 3 weeks of meticulous work. The quarterly analysis report represented everything I'd learned in my 15 years as a senior analyst at Morrison & Associates. Charts, graphs, projections, all perfectly aligned, color-coded, and cross-referenced. My wife Elena would have to acknowledge this one. "Nick, what's this garbage?" Elena's voice cut through the office chatter like a rusty blade. I looked up to see her standing behind my cubicle, her perfectly manicured fingers already reaching for my keyboard. As team leader, she had access to everything, but she'd never been this brazen before. "It's the quarterly report you requested," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I've been working on it since. This report is horrible." She didn't even look at the screen as she navigated to the delete function. Her voice carried across the open floor plan, causing heads to turn. "Absolutely horrible." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Elena, wait. Let me explain the methodology." She hit delete. 3 weeks of work vanished in an instant. The office fell silent except for the persistent hum of the air conditioning. 23 pairs of eyes watched as my wife, my partner of 12 years, smiled that cold smile I'd grown to hate. "Just to prove my dominance," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Something snapped inside me. Not broke, and snapped, like a rubber band pulled too tight. I picked up my phone with deliberate slowness and dialed a random number. "Yes, I'll take the 800,000 to join your company," I said into the deadline, my voice carrying the same authority Elena used in board meetings. Her smile faltered. Just for a second, but I caught it. "We'll discuss this at home," she whispered, leaning close enough that I could smell her expensive perfume mixed with something else. Guilt, maybe. "No," I said, still holding the phone. "We won't." I hung up and started gathering my things. The office remained frozen, like a photograph of corporate dysfunction. Alina's assistant Sasha peered over her cubicle wall, her eyes wide with the kind of excitement that comes from witnessing a spectacular car crash. "Where are you going?" Alina demanded. "Home. To pack." I wasn't bluffing anymore. The $800,000 job offer might have been fiction, but the rage burning in my chest was real enough to power a small city. As I walked toward the elevator, I heard whispers starting behind me. Good. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Elena had just made the biggest mistake of her career, and she didn't even know it yet. The elevator doors closed on her shocked face, and I allowed myself a small smile. She wanted to prove her dominance? Game on. Our house in Riverside Heights looked like something from a home design magazine. All clean lines, neutral colors, and surfaces so pristine you could perform surgery on them. Elena had decorated it to impress her colleagues and clients, not to actually live in. We'd been sleeping in separate bedrooms for 2 years, a fact she'd managed to hide from everyone by claiming I snored. I found the burner phone while looking for my old boxing gloves in Elena's walk-in closet. She'd hidden it inside a designer purse she never used, wrapped in a silk scarf like some kind of technological jewelry. The phone was cheap, plastic, the kind you buy at gas stations when you don't want your calls traced. My hands shook as I powered it on, already knowing what I'd find, but hoping I was wrong. I wasn't wrong. 47 text messages from L, spanning the last 3 months. The most recent was a selfie taken in what looked like an expensive apartment. Exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place that cost more per month than most people made in a year. "Missing you already," read the message timestamp. Yesterday at 9:47 p.m., the same time Elena had claimed to be working late on the Henderson account. I scrolled through the messages, each one a small knife twist in my gut. Plans for lunch dates, weekend getaways, intimate details I didn't want to read but couldn't stop myself from consuming. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how stupid they thought I was. "Nick's working late again. Coast is clear. He doesn't suspect anything. Too buried in his spreadsheets. Can't wait to be done with this charade." I took screenshots of everything, uploaded them to a secure cloud account, then carefully replaced the phone exactly where I'd found it. Elena prided herself on being detail-oriented, but she'd gotten sloppy, arrogant. She thought she was untouchable. The front door opened downstairs. Elena's heels clicked across the marble foyer with military precision. "Nick, we need to talk." I closed the closet door and walked downstairs, my face a mask of calm I'd perfected during years of corporate meetings. Elena stood in the kitchen, still wearing her power suit, a glass of wine already in her hand. "About what?" I asked. "About your little performance today," About whatever game you think you're playing. She took a sip of wine, studying me over the rim of the glass. There is no $800,000 job offer. How do you know? Because I know you, Nick. You're not the type to make bold moves. You're comfortable being overlooked, being underestimated. It's who you are. The words stung, because they'd been true for so long. But something had changed today. Maybe it was the public humiliation. Maybe it was finding the phone. Or maybe I'd just finally gotten tired of being treated like a piece of furniture in my own life. You deleted 3 weeks of work without even looking at it, I said. It was probably garbage anyway. Your reports always need extensive revision to prove your dominance. Oh, she shrugged. Someone had to establish the hierarchy. The team was getting confused about who's actually in charge. In charge of what, Elena? Our marriage or your affair? The wine glass froze halfway to her lips. For a moment, just a moment, I saw fear flicker across her features. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. I turned and walked back upstairs, leaving her standing in the kitchen. Behind me, I heard the wine glass shatter against the marble floor. The rusty anchor squatted on the wrong side of downtown like a wounded animal, all peeling paint and neon beer signs. It wasn't the kind of place Elena would normally be caught dead in, which made it perfect for clandestine meetings. According to the burner phone, she and Elle had been regulars for the past month. Rita Kowalski had been tending bar at the Anchor for 23 years. She had platinum blonde hair, arms covered in faded tattoos, and the kind of street wisdom that came from watching human nature at its worst. "You're Elena's husband," she said before I'd even sat down. "Seen your picture in her wallet. She shows people pictures of me." Rita laughed, a sound like gravel in a blender. "Honey, she shows people pictures of you to explain why she's here with someone else." The beer Rita slid across the bar was cold enough to numb my throat, which was good because everything else was burning. "Tell me about him." "Lucas Bentley, new money trying to act like old money, tips well but treats the staff like servants. Orders expensive whiskey, then complains it's not smooth enough." Rita wiped down the bar with practiced efficiency. "Your wife seems to like that type. How long have they been coming here?" "Month, maybe 6 weeks. Always the same routine. She gets here first, orders wine, checks her phone every 30 seconds. He shows up 15 minutes later like he's doing her a favor. They sit in that corner booth, heads together, whispering like teenagers." I looked at the booth she indicated. Red vinyl seats cracked with age, a table scarred by years of cigarettes and spilled drinks. It seemed like an unlikely spot for romance, but maybe that was the point. "They ever talk about me?" Rita's expression softened slightly. "Look, I've seen a lot of marriages fall apart in this place. Usually, the cheating spouse tries to justify it, make the other person out to be a monster. Your wife just talks about you like you're inconvenient, like a subscription she forgot to cancel." I finished my beer and left Rita a $20 tip. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Elena. "Working late again. Don't wait up." According to the GPS tracker I'd installed on her car that morning, a $40 device that looked like a magnetic phone charger, she was currently parked outside Lucas Bentley's apartment building. The building was everything I'd expected from the selfie. Glass and steel reaching toward the sky like a middle finger pointed at the working class. The kind of place where the monthly parking fee exceeded most people's rent. I found Elena's BMW in the underground garage, nestled between a Porsche and a Tesla like it belonged there. Through the building's directory, I learned that Lucas Bentley lived in the penthouse. Of course he did. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo message from the burner phone. Elena and Lucas on his balcony, the city lights spread out behind them like scattered diamonds. She was wearing the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. I took a picture of her car with my phone, making sure the timestamp and location were visible, then headed home to wait. Elena didn't come home until 3 a.m. I heard her trying to be quiet, slipping off her heels in the foyer, tiptoeing up the stairs. She paused outside my bedroom door for a long moment, and I wondered if she was going to come in, if she was going to try to explain, or apologize, or continue the charade. She didn't. Her bedroom door closed with a soft click, and I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling and planning my next move. Mick Torino had been my friend since college, back when I thought a business degree would lead to corner offices and company cars instead of cubicles and public humiliation. While I'd climbed the corporate ladder, Mick had built his own construction company from the ground up. He was shorter than me, built like a fire hydrant, and had the kind of loyalty that was becoming extinct in the modern world. So let me get this straight, Mick said, leaning against his pickup truck at the construction site. Your wife humiliated you in front of the entire office. She's been cheating on you with some trust fund baby. And you want to what? Take the high road? Want to take the smart road. Sometimes they're the same thing, sometimes they're not. Mick spit into the dirt. What do you need? I handed him a manila folder containing everything I'd gathered so far. Screenshots from the burner phone, GPS logs, credit card statements showing charges at restaurants I'd never been to, hotel rooms I'd never seen. Jesus, Nick. She's not even trying to hide it. That's what makes this so insulting. She thinks I'm too stupid to figure it out, or too weak to do anything about it. Are you? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. A year ago, even a month ago, the answer would have been yes. But something had changed when Elena hit that delete button. Something fundamental had shifted in my understanding of who I was and what I was willing to tolerate. No, I said, I'm not. Mick grinned. Good, because I've got an idea. Elena's car was still registered in both our names, a detail she'd overlooked in her rush to separate our lives in every other way. Technically, legally, I had every right to reclaim it. The fact that she'd left it parked outside Lucas's building at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday made the logistics even simpler. You sure about this? Mick asked as we positioned the tow truck. She wants to play games? Let's play games. Hoi. We towed the BMW to Mick's construction site and left it on blocks in the middle of the yard, like a metallic sculpture surrounded by piles of gravel and concrete mix. I left a note on the windshield. Trip canceled. Take an Uber. Hoi. My phone started ringing 20 minutes later. Where's my car? Elena's voice was tight with rage. Which car? The one registered to both of us? The one you've been using to visit your boyfriend? Don't be ridiculous. I don't have a Lucas Bentley. Penthouse apartment on 5th Street. You were there yesterday from 2:15 to 11:30 p.m. Want me to keep going? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. What do you want? She finally asked. I want you to stop treating me like I'm invisible. I want you to stop lying to my face. And I want you to remember that actions have consequences. This is kidnapping. This is marriage. You know, that thing where two people are supposed to be partners instead of one person using the other as a doormat? She hung up. 10 minutes later, Lucas called from his own phone. Listen, buddy, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. Your girlfriend's car is exactly where it belongs, in a construction yard, surrounded by dirt and honest work. Maybe she'll learn something. You can't just take someone's car. It's my car too. Check the registration. I hung up and turned off my phone. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Following Elena and Lucas had become easier than I'd expected. They'd grown comfortable in their routine, careless in their certainty that I was too passive to fight back. The GPS tracker on Elena's replacement rental car, a detail she'd forgotten to mention, led me to the Meridian Hotel downtown. The hotel bar was all dark wood and soft lighting, the kind of place where wealthy people went to feel sophisticated. I positioned myself behind a pillar, with a clear view of their table, nursing a whiskey and listening to their conversation. He's becoming a problem, Elena was saying. The car thing was just the beginning. He's watching me. Lucas leaned back in his chair, radiating the kind of confidence that comes from never facing real consequences. So what? Let him watch. What's he going to do? Bore us to death with spreadsheets? You don't understand. Nick's not as harmless as he looks. He used to box in college, and when he gets angry, really angry, he gets quiet, calculating. I'm shaking. Lucas took a sip of his whiskey. Look, babe, maybe it's time to make this official. File for divorce, take half his assets, move in with me. Problem solved. Elena shook her head. It's not that simple. If he fights the divorce, things could get complicated. My reputation, my job. Your job. Lucas laughed. You think anyone cares about your little corporate drama? I make more in a month than you make in a year. The dismissive tone in his voice made Elena's jaw tighten. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. My career matters to me, even if it doesn't matter to you. Relax. Once this is over, you won't need a career. I'll take care of everything. I'd heard enough. I paid my tab and headed for the parking garage, where Elena's rental car sat next to Lucas's pristine Mustang. The GPS tracker came off easily, but as I straightened up, voices echoed from the stairwell. Told you he was watching us. Paranoid. There, by my car. Lucas emerged from the stairwell first, his expensive suit immaculate, his face twisted with annoyance. Behind him, Elena clicked across the concrete in heels that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. "Hey!" Lucas shouted when he saw me. "What the hell are you doing?" "Checking my wife's car for damage. You know how careless rental companies can be?" "That's not your car." "No, but she is my wife. At least until she grows the courage to ask for a divorce instead of sneaking around like a teenager." Lucas stepped closer, his chest puffed out like a rooster in a farmyard. "Maybe you should take the hint and move on, buddy. Nobody wants you here. Nobody asked you. I'm asking you, man to man. Walk away from this. Elena doesn't want to hurt you, but you don't care if she does." "I care about Elena. You're just an obstacle." The word obstacle hit me like a physical blow. Not a person, not a husband, not even an enemy worth respecting. Just an obstacle to be moved or removed. I smiled. "You know what? You're right." Lucas relaxed slightly, mistaking my calm for surrender. "I am an obstacle," I continued. "The question is, what kind?" Before he could answer, I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. A live video feed from the hotel bar, where our entire conversation had been recorded by the security camera I'd hacked into using skills I'd learned in my previous job at a cybersecurity firm. "Smile, Lucas. You're on camera threatening a man whose wife you're sleeping with. I wonder what your board of directors would think about that kind of judgment." His face went white. "You can't. That's illegal." "Actually, it's not. Public space, no expectation of privacy. But don't worry, I'm not going to ruin your career over one conversation." I started walking toward the exit, then turned back. "I'm going to ruin it over all the conversations." Elena's voice followed me as I reached the stairwell. "Nick, wait!" But I was done waiting. Done being reasonable. Done being an obstacle they could simply move around. It was time to become something else entirely. Sasha Martinez had worked as Elena's assistant for 3 years, which meant she knew where all the bodies were buried. She also had a gambling problem, a fact I'd discovered through careful observation of her browser history during late-night office sessions. $5,000, I said, sliding the envelope across the coffee shop table, for copies of Elena's calendar, email backups, and anything else that might be interesting. Sasha's eyes widened as she peeked inside the envelope. This is a lot of money. It's a lot of information. I could get fired. You could get rich. Elena's not going to be in a position to fire anyone much longer." Sasha bit her lip, weighing her options. Loyalty to Elena versus $5,000 and the chance to get out from under her credit card debt. "What exactly are you planning?" "Nothing illegal. Nothing that will hurt you. I just want the truth to come out." She took the envelope. "Elena's been using company resources for personal business, charging lunches with Lucas to the Henderson account, using the company car for weekend trips, even had me book hotel rooms on the corporate credit card. Can you prove it?" "I can do better than that. I can show you the emails where she bragged about it to Lucas." The emails were everything I'd hoped for, and worse than I'd imagined. Elena hadn't just been stealing from the company, she'd been laughing about it, treating Morrison and Associates like her personal piggy bank, while positioning herself as the model of corporate integrity. "Look at this one," Sasha said, pointing to her laptop screen. "She's making fun of you to Lucas, calling you the accountant, like you're not even worth using your name." The email was dated 2 weeks ago. "The accountant is working late again, trying to impress me with his little reports. It's almost sad how hard he tries. At least it gives us more time together. Speaking of which, can you book us that suite at the Ritz for Friday? Use the Henderson account. They'll never notice, and if they do, I'll blame it on the accountant's poor record keeping." I forwarded the email to my personal account, along with dozens of others documenting Elena's theft, her affair, and her complete lack of respect for everyone around her. "There's more," Sasha said quietly. "She's been setting you up." "What do you mean?" "The reports you've been writing, the ones she keeps rejecting. She's been saving them, rewriting them slightly, then submitting them as her own work. The Morrison account, the Henderson analysis, the quarterly projections, that's all your work with her name on it." The betrayal was so complete, so thorough, that for a moment I couldn't speak. Elena hadn't just been cheating on me. She'd been stealing my career, my reputation, my professional identity. "Why are you telling me this?" As Sasha closed the laptop. "Because she's been treating me the same way she treats you, like I'm invisible unless she needs something, and because," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "because someone needs to stop her before she destroys everyone around her." That night, I created a dozen anonymous social media accounts and began sharing Elena's story with the world. Not the stolen reports, that would come later, through proper channels, but the affair, the company theft, the hotel receipts, the emails mocking her colleagues and subordinates. I tagged Morrison and Associates, Lucas's company, the local business journal, and every professional contact Elena had spent years cultivating. By morning, Elena Gate was trending locally, and Elena's phone was ringing non-stop. She didn't come home that night, or the next, but Lucas did. Lucas Bentley stood on my front porch at 7 a.m., looking like he'd slept in his car. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled, and his eyes had the wild look of a man watching his world collapse in real time. "We need to talk," he said when I opened the door. "No, we don't." I started to close the door, but he jammed his foot in the gap. "Please, just 5 minutes. You've got 2. He followed me into the kitchen, where I poured myself coffee and didn't offer him any. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone and showed me the screen. "This has to stop. The posts, the emails, whatever you're planning next, it has to stop." The phone displayed his company's internal message board, where someone had posted screenshots of his text messages with Elena, along with a detailed timeline of their affair and its impact on both their professional responsibilities. I didn't post that," I said truthfully. "I hadn't needed to." Once the story broke, Elena's other enemies had crawled out of the woodwork like termites from a rotting house. "My board is meeting tomorrow. They're talking about termination, about breach of ethics clauses. I could lose everything." "You should have thought of that before you decided my marriage was your playground." "Nona said you two were practically divorced already. She said you hadn't been intimate in years, that you were basically roommates. And you believed her? Why would she lie?" I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "Because she's a liar, Lucas. It's what she does. She lied to me about working late. She lied to the company about expense reports. And she lied to you about our marriage. What makes you think you're special?" His face crumpled like wet paper. "She said she loved me. She said she loved me too. 12 years ago, at our wedding, in front of 300 people. How'd that work out?" "This is different." "No, it's not. You're just the next obstacle in her path to whatever she thinks she wants. And when she's done with you, she'll throw you away just like she threw me away." Lucas sank into one of the kitchen chairs without being invited. "What do you want? Money? I can pay you." "I don't want your money." "Then what?" I sat down across from him, studying his face. A month ago, Lucas Bentley had been everything I wasn't: rich, confident, successful with women, untouchable in his privilege. Now he looked like what he'd always been underneath: a scared little boy who'd never faced real consequences for his actions. "I want you to understand something," I said quietly. "Elena didn't just cheat on me. She humiliated me in front of my colleagues, stole my work, made me feel like I was worthless. And you helped her do it." "I didn't know. You didn't want to know. There's a difference." "So what happens now?" "Now you live with the consequences. Just like I've been doing for the past year while you two were playing house." Lucas's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face went even paler. "Elena?" I asked. She's blaming everything on me. Telling people I seduced her, that I threatened her job if she didn't go along with the affair." "And you're surprised?" He looked up at me with something approaching respect. "You knew she'd do this." "I know Elena. When cornered, she doesn't fight. She sacrifices whoever's closest to save herself. What should I do?" "Learn from it. Find someone who actually cares about you, instead of what you can do for them. And stay away from married women." Lucas stood up slowly, like an old man. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." "No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference." After he left, I sat in the kitchen drinking coffee and watching the sun come up over the neighborhood Elena had chosen because it impressed her friends. In a few hours, she'd be facing a disciplinary hearing at Morrison and Associates. Her professional reputation was in ruins, her affair was public knowledge, and her lover had just discovered what kind of person she really was. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired, but I wasn't done yet. There was still one more move to make. The Morrison and Associates building looked different in the morning light, smaller somehow, less imposing than it had when I'd worked there. I walked through the lobby like I owned the place, nodding to the security guard who'd seen me every day for 15 years. "Mr. Harper!" Jennifer Walsh, the HR director, intercepted me before I could reach the elevators. "I wasn't expecting to see you today. I have some documents to submit regarding the Elena Harper investigation." Her expression became carefully neutral. I see. Would you like to schedule a meeting? No need. Everything's in here. I handed her a flash drive. Financial records, email correspondence, work product attribution, everything you'll need to understand the full scope of the situation. Jennifer took the drive like it might explode. Mr. Harper, I want you to know that the company takes these allegations very seriously. I'm sure you do. Is Alina here today? She's in a meeting with the partners. Perfect. I'll wait. I took the elevator to the 15th floor and walked to Alina's office. Through the glass walls, I could see her sitting at the conference table, surrounded by the senior partners. Her face was pale but composed, her hands folded in front of her like she was attending a board meeting instead of her own execution. She saw me through the glass, and her composure cracked slightly. I smiled and waved. Sasha approached from behind, moving quietly. She's been in there for 2 hours. They have everything. The emails, the expense reports, the plagiarized work. How's she handling it? Like Elena always handles things. Denying everything, blaming everyone else, acting like she's the victim. And Lucas, fired yesterday. His company put out a statement about ethical violations and breach of fiduciary duty. He's toxic now. No one in the industry will touch him. The conference room door opened, and Elena emerged, followed by the partners. Her face was a mask of controlled rage, but I could see the fear underneath. She'd built her entire identity around being untouchable, and now she was just another disgraced executive with a cardboard box full of personal items. She walked toward me, her heels clicking against the marble floor like gunshots. Satisfied? She asked. Getting there. You've destroyed everything. My career, my reputation, my future. I didn't destroy anything. I just revealed what was already there. You could have talked to me. We could have worked something out. Like you worked something out when you deleted my report in front of the entire office? Like you worked something out when you were stealing my work and claiming credit? Like you worked something out when you were laughing about me in emails to your boyfriend? Elena's mask slipped completely. You were never going anywhere, Nick. With or without me, you'd still be sitting in that cubicle, writing reports nobody reads, living a life nobody envies. At least I tried to build something. You built something, all right. You built a house of cards, and I just showed everyone it was made of paper. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I turned and walked toward the elevator, leaving Elena standing in the hallway holding her box of personal items. Behind me, I heard her heels clicking frantically as she tried to catch up. But the elevator doors closed before she could reach them. In the lobby, I ran into several former colleagues. They looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and respect I'd never seen before. Nick! Tom Bradley from accounting grabbed my arm. Is it true? About Elena and the stolen reports? It's all true. Jesus. We always wondered how she got so good so fast. And the affair? Also true. What are you going to do now? I smiled. Whatever I want. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new office at Hartwell and Associates, a boutique consulting firm that specialized in corporate fraud investigation. The irony wasn't lost on me. My experience being defrauded had made me an expert at detecting it in others. My phone buzzed with a text from Mick. Saw the news. Elena's bankruptcy filing went through. Karma's a bitch. I looked up the article he was referring to. Elena had tried to start her own consulting firm after being fired from Morrison and Associates, but her reputation had followed her. No clients, no income, and legal bills from the divorce proceedings had drained her savings. She was now working as a sales associate at a department store, living in a one-bedroom apartment across town. Lucas had disappeared entirely. Rumor had it he'd moved back in with his parents in Connecticut, but no one knew for sure. Another text came in, this one from an unknown number. This is Elena. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve what I did to you. I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Some apologies come too late to matter. Rita from the Rusty Anchor had called a few weeks ago to tell me Elena had been coming in alone, drinking wine and staring at her phone. She looks like hell, Rita had said. Asked about you once, wanted to know if you ever came in. I hadn't been back to the Anchor. That part of my life was over. My secretary knocked on the door. Mr. Harper, your 3 o'clock is here. Send them in. The client was a middle-aged woman whose husband had been embezzling from their family business. As she told her story, the lies, the betrayal, the feeling of being made to look foolish, I found myself nodding along. The worst part, she said, is that everyone keeps asking me how I didn't know, like I'm stupid for trusting my own husband. You're not stupid. I told her. You're human. Humans trust the people they love. It's not a weakness. It's what makes us human. So what do I do now? I leaned back in my chair, thinking about Elena standing in that hallway with her cardboard box, thinking about Lucas sitting in my kitchen, looking like a broken man, thinking about myself 6 months ago, staring at a deleted report and feeling like the world had ended. Now you rebuild, I said. You take everything you've learned and you build something better, something that belongs to you. Is that what you did? I smiled. That's exactly what I did. After she left, I walked to the window and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Elena was folding clothes and ringing up customers, learning what it felt like to start over with nothing. Somewhere else, Lucas was probably still trying to figure out how his perfect life had fallen apart so quickly. And here I was, in an office with my name on the door, helping other people fight back against the Elenas and Lucases of the world. My phone rang. The caller ID showed a familiar number, Morrison and Associates. Nick Harper. Nick, this is Jennifer Walsh. I hope you don't mind me calling. Not at all. What can I do for you? We have a situation. One of our senior partners is suspected of embezzling client funds. The board would like to hire you to investigate. I looked around my office. The diplomas on the wall, the family photos I'd never bothered to display when I was married, the awards from grateful clients who'd hired me to find their own truth. I'll take the case, I said. After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and smiled. Elena had been right about one thing. I never would have left that cubicle on my own. I'd been too comfortable being overlooked, too afraid of taking risks. But she'd forced me out of my comfort zone, and in trying to destroy me, she'd actually set me free. I opened my laptop and began preparing for the Morrison and Associates case. It felt good to be hunting predators instead of being prey. Outside my window, the sun was setting over the city, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. It was beautiful, and for the first time in years, I was free to enjoy it. Elena had wanted to prove her dominance. Instead, she'd taught me to find my own.